Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Kaiju Kingdom podcast. We are your hosts,
Jessica,
and I am Chris Heaton. My word, do we have a show for you today, don't we, Jessica?
Yes, we do. Whew. we spent several hours on this one.
We did our homework, if you will, and let's just say that the test results were not great. So today's episode, we are going to be delving into season 2, as they call it, season 2. It's technically the back half of Pacific Rim: The Black, which, as of this recording, has been out for about almost 2 months. So we figured, you know what? Let's catch up. We're playing catch up on the show right now, as we've been gone for a little while, but this is a little more timely. And not only that, but this wraps up the Black story of Pacific Rim. And so we said, you know what, we're going to sit down, finally watch this, because there's, in this day and age of streaming, there's just so many options out there, so many things capturing your attention. I think, how many things have you watched in the last couple of weeks, Jessica?
I've actually watched quite a bit. I feel like after the last 2 years, we are now catching up with all of these new shows that have come out. Chris and I recently were talking about Obi-Wan. I am waiting to binge Ms. Marvel, however, we also had Umbrella Academy. So there's been quite a bit of things that have actually come out.
I finished that Winning Time, the story of the Lakers.
Oh, yes, I want to see that one.
I am not a basketball fan in any means, but
okay.
I am a child of Southern California. I grew up in the late 80s and early. I was a little boy in the late 80s my childhood. It was in the early 90s. So the Lakers and Magic Johnson are very much ingrained into the culture out here. So I went in like, this looks interesting, and my God, was I enthralled. Even if I knew parts of the story, and there's a lot I didn't know, but my God, I was like, every episode was just something new and spectacular. And I have friends recommending right now the Offer, the making of the Godfather.
Yes,
and
yes.
One of my buddies says is like, if you loved Winning Time, you're going to love this. This genre of the story behind the story. I'm all down for that. I can get in, even if I'm not into the thing that it's like it's like documentaries. I can get into like a documentary if it's not something I'm into. Like there's a great racing doc about, it's called the 24-hour war. It's about the Ford versus Ferrari. Which is what Ford versus Ferrari was based on. I watched it a couple of years ago and I'm like, my God, this is fascinating. This is absolutely enthralling. So that kind of stuff I love to death, as much as I love being my giant monsters. Well, I don't think there's any other way to do this. You know what? We're going to jump in. So last we saw Pacific Rim: The Black, which is on Netflix right now. It left off on a cliffhanger where our two sibling heroes found out that the young child that they had picked up is actually a kaiju, and they faced off against a kaiju that was, chasing them down the entire first half of the show, murdered it, and it left us that this weird witchy cabal was after the kid. And that was shockingly over a year ago, Jessica.
Yes.
It
was.
That is the downfall of streaming. You could sit there, and in 3 hours, you're caught up. You're like, man, that was great. When is more? 16 months from now. Damn it. But as you get older, you learn time is meaningless, and it just flies by. And you realize, my God, like I need to hold on to it a little bit more. So here we are, a year and some change later, and we finally get the answer to these questions with the back half of these 7 episodes. So it's a 14 episode in time, 14 episodes in total. And the way that the show, the first half left off, I was intrigued. My God, there's so many cool ideas here. We have the sisterhood of witches that worship kaiju. We were introduced to Apex, the kaiju Jaeger hybrid that gained sentiency. Like, boy, what is he? Where does he come from? We were introduced to ideas in the Jaeger tech with the drift technology that you can play with people's minds, and that there's a whole world that the movies never got to play with, and ideas that were like, what, this could happen and this could happen, and this is what the show seemed like it was playing. It was playing with those ideas, and so I was excited as hell to see these ideas played off. And I'm going to let you go first, Jessica, because I know you have thoughts.
I was really surprised because I thought you were going to transition from, that series is enthralling, unlike Pacific Rim the Black season 2, which was the opposite of me being enthralled. I honestly thought we were going to go that way.
Thank you for picking up on that fluke, because I do feel shamed. That's where I should have gone. That's where my segue should have gone. And yeah, I didn't. I dropped the ball in that one, but you picked it up and you scored.
No, it was, the first season 1, is kind of how I felt with season 2 of Iron Fist, which as I'm watching, I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's a show, it's got people, and then there are things, but then the last couple minutes for me, I was like, okay, I would love to see season 3 of Iron Fist, because they introduce some old Iron Fist ideas and also gun fu, everything, all of that. I'm like, all right, great. It was the same for me in season 1 of Pacific Rim the Black, because we get to see a little bit of Apex, who's wonderful, but also the boy, which is now a kaiju and human hybrid. So I was like, okay, great. Very excited to see where season 2 is going. I never really warmed up for the kids. I'm like, maybe they're written in a certain way because they're young and they were hoping to find their parents. I understand there's angst there. Then we get into season 2. And I am someone that can actually sit through an episode of Paris Hilton attempting to cook. So I thought I would have no problem. Plus there's kaijus and we know Atlas is there. I have never wanted to fast forward something so bad. But that's just me. Like, I just want to say this whole show is our opinion. If you absolutely loved it, I'm very happy for you. It's meant to be entertainment. It is not, and entertainment can be subjective. So I don't really feel like it is meant for friendships to end, right?
Yes.
However, I personally did not, like, I was able to watch this at a friend's home, and my best friend stepped away for a little bit, and then he came back into episode 3. He and I are usually people who like to start something from beginning to end. We are completionists. I was able to sum up everything in the first 2 episodes, and he legitimately said, I guess there's nothing more I need to know. We'll just start episode 3. And episode 3 is kind of where more of the action and the story comes in. I will say, before we get into individual details and plot points, overall, I did not care for any of the human beings. And by the way, this is a whole spoiler. So if you have not seen season 2, please go watch. But moving forward from here, it will be spoiler territory because it also has been out, I believe, for a little bit. But I know we're all busy. So I did not care for any of the people. And that also included the mother, who turns out to be one of the sisters. And it did not care for anyone at the Sydney base. which I will get towards a little bit more later. I
Mm-hmm.
honestly just did not care for any of the younger characters, which is May, Taylor, and Haley. The boy doesn't count because he was in a coma, almost death most of the time. So he doesn't count. I did not care for any of the characters because the way that they were written really make no sense. Even if you were very angsty, very upset, you couldn't find your mom, you're trying to get to Sydney, there is definitely still, and as far as we know, they understand logic. None of them have gone through like traumatic brain injury or anything like that. So they should
Mm-hmm.
not have no issue understanding why certain characters do certain things. You know, Taylor letting go of the boy to the sisters because he felt he could save the three of them. May not wanting to be with them. Haley was very attached to the for boy, even though he knew these other people a little bit longer, like clearly her
Mm-hmm.
brother her whole life, and May at least for a couple of episodes of season one. So it really, and I know that he saved her life, right? And we know that he does a lot for them, but it was very disproportionate how much she was willing to also risk her mother's life, who basically died for, I wouldn't say for nothing, but there are certain parts of the plan that could still happen without the sacrifice of certain characters, like
Yes.
the mom and or Shane.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot that was happening, and she was way more attached to disproportionately to a character that she didn't know as well, as opposed to people that she actually knew, including her own parent and or parents, or the idea of going to Sydney. I also did not care for the adults because at the end, I liked the fact that the children revealed that they were survivors of two well known Jaeger pilot parents.
Mm-hmm.
And the marshal says, ceasefire. Those are, the son of them, Brina and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then never sent any help.
Oh
And
yeah.
those
Yeah.
kids almost died. So I did
Yes.
not care for that human being. And then when the father came out of the vehicle and was like, I'm so sorry. I really tried to go back to you, but I just couldn't. I was like, no, you look like a man who is cleanly shaven and living quite well on a base. You did not look like you even tried to go get your wife and kids. You did not seem like
Yeah.
you put up a fight with anybody. So if I were Taylor and Haley, I because it was such a Shangri-La. Oh my gosh, whatever the term is, basically a beautiful haven for
Mm-hmm.
them. I cannot pronounce the
Shangri-La.
term.
Shangri-La.
Shangri-La. Yes,
Yes.
it was a beautiful. Like that was Sydney was to them, and I understand it's a safe point.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that they were treated with no help, I would not be happy to see those people at the Sydney base. They are not. I mean, obviously that's the safest place to be, and you should be there. But I would definitely harbor a grudge and be like, none of you all came to help me.
Yeah.
So as for the people characters, the human characters, discounting boy, I did not care for any of them. And I miss the days when this whole thing was just kaijus versus robots. Jaegers. There was two, like the sisters and everything was, I do know the way human civilization goes, eventually they will find something to worship, and I
Mm-hmm.
get it. But I don't think it was wise, even from the main high priestess, to try so hard to get a Messiah only to be alone with him in the desert or wasteland, fully knowing that he could kill you, in which he did. I would not try to power play or drag a character across knowing that character could take your life. I don't think that was a smart move. So even down to the semi-human characters, I did like the only ones. And Shane, you and I discussed this. We are okay with human redemption arcs with villain. We understand, the purpose of, but his was resolved too quickly for the amount of damage that he's done towards May.
Yeah.
Yes, and the only characters I really liked was Spider, who
Yeah.
wasn't really human. I liked Spider. And then my two favorites, who were not human, were killed, which was Lola, the AI, and Apex, which I know Chris and I will touch upon how amazing he was set up, and then how quickly he was taken out because the boy, when transformed into a kaiju, is much smaller than him, and we don't know in regarding strength proportions. But if you are a Jaeger kaiju hybrid who is so badass with a color pattern that reminds me of Darth Maul, you should not be taken out that easily. I do not know what was happening there, and just the human characters, the main three young protagonists, were not written well. You did not root for any of their plans or their ideals, and I just wanted to. They were not great. I did not care for any of the humans to survive. I think the only decision that a human ever done correctly, and it sounds terrible, I think was it Victor or one of the soldiers at the base where Shane's base is, he ended up having to take out the soldier that was going to make things worse.
That was when Apex was marching.
Yes, marching.
It was Shane's group.
Shane's group. I mean, he didn't need to shoot her through the head, but he definitely could have punched her out so she was knocked out because she was going to make things worse. However, knowing the way the character was, he obviously shot her. It's within his character, but he could have knocked her out. But that was the only real human planning that makes sense because she was going to create a ripple effect that was going to be even worse. There was so much wrong with we didn't even get to May's memory chip. Oh my god! I love the fact that you texted me and said that they did not stick the landing.
No. That is my thing is with TV shows, especially when you have a definitive beginning, middle, and end, and that's the thing with streaming is that, which I kind of enjoy that we don't get these long drawn out seasons. I'm cool with a show knowing we got about 40 episodes worth of story here, and that's all we're going to tell. I'm like, cool. Just make sure that you make use of all those 40 episodes. There's no lollygagging. There's no bivouacking going on. You tell the story, you explore your themes, and then you stick the landing. That's all I want. That's all I want out of all this. And yet, sitting here watching this because I was hyped. The way season 1 left and the ideas that they were exploring in the show in the first half, I was totally in on. And if you go back and listen to our review of that season, I was like, my God, they're doing this and this. These are themes that were never explored in the movie or just briefly touched upon in both movies, actually. And I'm like, they could go all kinds of places. And then so they start immediately where we left off. They realize Boy is some sort of kaiju hybrid. He shrinks back down to a human, and then all of a sudden the sisters send their kaiju hounds, which apparently are not part of the regular kaiju hordes, which was never properly explained. He murders them, and then they put a tick on him. And then we spend 4 episodes of this kid in a coma, and we don't do anything. They kind of just lollygag. They spend those first 3.5 episodes going from one place to another. There was one kernel of an idea with what is his name? His name is the Bunyip Man, which was voiced by Reese Darby, and the guy that corralled the kaiju and kind of became friends with them, which did have the logical ending that you would expect from such an idea, but it did nothing for the story. It didn't go anywhere. It didn't add anything new to it other than it felt like padding to a story that they kind of ran out of ideas on. But when you get further down the line, it's like, no, we have other ideas. We're wasting time, and that is the cardinal sin. Especially, you have 7 episodes, and each episode's going to be roughly about 24 minutes. Start delivering on these ideas that you put out there. Nothing with Apex until I think episode 5, when he finally comes back into the fold. Never explain a single thing about Boy. The sisters want him. By the way, we get these just general ideas of the sisters. They worship kaiju. They inject kaiju blood into them, which is kind of counter to what is set up in the movies, that the fact that the kaiju blood is wildly toxic is one of the reasons why they built the Jaegers, because it's like, we can't keep nuking these things, and if we just keep blasting them, the blood just contaminates everything. So we have to build robots to mashy smashy. Now you have a cabal of females, which they allude are maybe being controlled by the aliens, but it's never really explained, other than we have kaiju blood and we are worshiping this thing. And not only that, but we also have low telekinetic powers too, because apparently they can control kaiju, and at least the high priestess can control other members with her mind, which outside of the drift tech is a completely new aspect that is never properly explained in this universe it's set up. Then we find the mom, and you're like, okay, well, cool, there's one. Where's the dad at? We never find out. And then we are running, and we have the mom, we have Boy, and we have Haley for 3 whole episodes not shutting up for 5 minutes and acting. She reverted to like a 4-year-old that all of a sudden forgot the world around her. When her brother and May are literally trying to be reasonable with her, and she's throwing that cardinal sin they do with female characters, where it's like, no, love conquers all. It's like, no. This is a world, it's hostile environment. It is Mad Max out there. Either we're going to make it to Sydney to live, and if we're going to do that, we might have to give up this kid that we only met about 3 days prior. So maybe don't be so attached and act like it's already a family. It's like she found a dog, and it belonged to somebody else, but she's like, no, it's my puppy now. But it's not yours. Then we get into Shane. Shane, I thought was a interesting character in the first half. I like the idea. He's kind of a what's his name from Mad Max? Why am I blanking on his name? The bad guy. Immortan Joe. He's kind of an Immortan Joe out in the plain, out in the outback of Australia. He's a bastard. He's an a-hole. And he does what needs to be done in order to survive in this harsh environment. Understandable. There's really no redeeming qualities about the man, especially once they reveal that he has essentially manipulated May with drift tech and completely mind wiped her. Like, they even get to the point where it's almost like a mental violation of her. And he's never apologetic. He seems to be completely, emotionless about the whole thing. And then he shows up, saves their butts. Boy gets taken away. And then they're like, well, we got our mom now, but she's completely under the spell of these witches. So Shane's like, I'll go in, and we can use the Atlas Destroyer to go in, and I could find her in her brain. And then he has this. We spend almost this whole episode in the mom's mind as Shane is running through, as the witches, the sisters, whatever the hell it is, their influence on her is completely eating everything away. Finds the mom, tells her that he's there to help, and gets her out of there, and then sacrifices himself for like out of it's a completely left field, out of character moment where it is not earned. And I sat there and I yelled, "Bullcrap!" Like, no, that character did not earn that noble death. And the fact that Mai was like mourning him, like I understand Spider mourning him because they at least established like he was good to Spider and Spider was loyal to him. May was like up until until the second he strapped himself in, she's like, "Don't trust this a-hole. He's going to screw us." And then, oh, he's dead. Now I'm sad. No, nay, nay, I say, you haven't earned that. That is lazy writing. From there, now we have to go get Boy back, and now we have to go. It just backtracks. We're going back, and not only that, we're not adding anything new. We're not adding any sort of backstory to the sisters. What the hell they are, why they do what they do. They just worship kaiju, and they're creepy, and they are relentless. We get a few cool fights out of that with Atlas Destroyer and some kaiju. I will say a positive note. Some of the designs of the kaiju in this half of the series were actually well done. I liked it. But beyond that, we're four. I think we're at 4 or 5 episodes in already, and we've not moved. We've not really moved anywhere. They get Boy back. He is under the sisters' control. He goes mental. Apex notices this while hanging out in his gigantic lair that's right next to a rift because he just sits there and eats kaiju to come through, and then just like, I gotta go save Boy. Like, he's literally Catman Scruthers from The Shining, and he gets The Shining from God, wait, why am I blanking? The Jack's kid. He's like, I gotta go help him, and just starts jogging across the desert, and then stops for 2 seconds and murders Shane's people because one person could not keep their finger off the trigger. And then he's like, I got to get back to my job. Shows up, has a fight with Boy, while Titan redeem or well, yeah, while wait, no, not Titan. Atlas Destroyer has a malfunction, and then gets his ass handed to him for about 3 whole minutes while he's trying to drift with Boy to reignite whatever his old memories were, and then gets the job done, but then kind of dies. Like, he gets damaged, but you're like, is that enough to kill him? I know he's half Jaeger and half kaiju, but it's like, feels like there should have been more. And then they completely just wash away one of the most interesting elements of the entire series in about 3.5 minutes. And then we spend the next 2 episodes just running. We run. It's like Lord of the Rings, but with running. We are running and we are running. And then a big battle. Sisters, the High Priestess. We get to Sydney. They send out a bunch of drones, Jaegers. They unleash a volley. There's a Category 6 kaiju, which is supposed to be as big as the super hybrid kaiju from Uprising. He pretty much hands Atlas Destroyer its butt on a silver platter. The Jaeger base does nothing to help. And then, Jessica, what is the deal with every single piece of film and cartoons and animation that they've done with Pacific Rim, where the only ending they could ever come up with is that they must blow up the Jaeger to win the day? I do not understand. They did it the first time, it made sense. Okay, cool. Self-sacrifice. Then they did it again in Uprising. It's like, all right, that's a little lazy. And then they do it here. And they're trying to give Lola like this big hero moment, but it's like, they just got their ass handed to them for 5 minutes by this super kaiju. And then she's like, well, get out of here. I'm going to blow up. And then blows up. And then, hey, everything's great. And we mourn the mom. The dad's there. And you're like, where the hell were you? And then I guess Mai's like, well, I'm screwed up, but hey, at least we saved the day, and we're in Sydney now. And they have a little moment for the mom, and then they all hug, and then I swear to God, it almost felt like they were going to play the ending of the Karate Kid song. It, and I went, no, no, no. This I will not abide. I will not abide this. This is not solid writing. This is not good writing. This is lazy.
I
This is
it I
absolutely.
yes, it is like the and then they basically explained the Marshall had explained what the boy is. He was created by them
Yeah,
as a
and they
weapon,
knew. They
and
knew
then
what
he
the
got
hell
used
he was, but they still don't
and
explain it.
and that happened. You know, and just to go back when you were speaking, the sisters made no sense because they did
Mm-hmm.
not like males, but then the boy is a male.
Yes.
But then he's kaiju, so I guess that explains it why they would make an exception. And then even when Shane was rescuing Brina, you know, when the sisters, as they were escaping, the sister says, "You cannot escape us." I get
Mm-hmm.
it, right? Because they're trying to leave. They've taken over her last memory of, you know, her when her kids as babies. And then you see kind of the hole open up in the drift,
Mm-hmm.
in which I was thinking those are the sisters coming through. Like
Mm-hmm.
they have trapped you. Instead, Shane tosses Brina up through the hole. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, did he just give her to the sisters? But that whole thing was a metaphorical thing of she got out.
Yeah.
I did not know.
Yeah.
It didn't
Exactly.
seem it was set up in a way that was not great. And even when you were saying Haley, they set up the whole thing so Haley was right, that love conquers all, but however you have taken your mother's life and also the fact that her idea, she should know that the sisters would never let her go if she went with the boy to go get an antidote. Because she's like, I can accompany him, even down to the fact that she's like, it's fine. Atlas will come and save me. Atlas is a Jaeger who has one arm that does not belong to him.
Mm-hmm.
So this robot is barely holding his crap together. What makes you think Alice is going to make it through? I
I know.
I I
And
did not.
they literally
Mm-mm.
they had a moment where Taylor has that moment of like, we can't just punch our way through this. That's not how this works. It's Han Solo in Force Awakens when it's like, well, what's the plan? It's like, and Finn's like, we'll use the Force, and he's like, that's not how that works. That's not how any of this works. That's the thing that bugs me about that kind of writing. Just so you can get this character to have this emotional arc moment, you throw away logic and reason, and that to me is just lazy. For it feels like you're college. You've gone through college. I'm pretty sure you've done more essays in your life than you ever want to do ever again, right, Jessica?
Yeah.
How many essays have you had where you're like, I just need to pad this out because my teacher wants a particular word count, so you kind of say the same thing 3 or 4 times, but in different ways, just so you can meet the requirements because you can only say so much about this particular topic in this particular paragraph. That is what this was. This was that. This was exactly that. This is just the
Yeah,
laziest.
I just wondered if they were just trying to finish because they had an obligation to finish. I'm always very excited for a new season of a show, and I'm always very sad that they get canceled, right? This is a
Yeah.
show where I actually, personally, for me, if there was no season three, I'd be okay with it,
Mhm.
except for maybe answering May's memories because she gets a chip and then we never see it again.
I would like May's memories. What the hell were the sisters? What was Apex doing the entire time? Uh, who the hell created Boy? Was he a product of the precursors? Is there something else going on? Where the hell did he come from? Are there more like him? Because they were mentioning like there are other kaiju hybrids out there that they were like mixing them with other things. And it's like, wait, what are they mixing them with? Because they're definitely not human. There's something else. These are all things that were kind of tossed gingerly out there that they did so well in the first half of like setting things up, but then in the second half, it was just like we just need to finish. We now need to. We have 7 episodes to finish what we were doing, and it definitely felt like because this was all done as one giant miniseries. It's 14 episodes. It was clearly done as one whole thing. They wrote it all at once, but it felt like once they got to the back half, when they finished the first arc of killing, I forgot the kaiju at the moment, the one that was chasing them down in the first half. Then it was like, okay, here are all these other ideas that we're just going to rush through and then give you the simplest, like, dusting of answers. But just go with it. It's just there. There are times in movies that I'm like, you only have like 94 minutes. I understand you can't explain everything. Sometimes less is more. But in this case, you had 3.5 more hours to tell the story. And you could have gone in so many different ways and paid off so many other things. Now, they did give us an ending. It did wrap up. It's done. But was it satisfying? No. This was getting up in the morning, pouring yourself a nice cold glass of milk, and then you take a sip, and it's not quite sour, but you know it's turned, and you're like, that's disappointing. And then you got to dump it out because you're not going to drink the rest because it's not full nasty yet, but it's enough. You're like, I'm not drinking that. That's what this was. This was quite the letdown. And again, I am a hardened defender of the second movie. I love that second movie. I have sat and defended it against many of the detractors because it's a super robot movie at heart. Yes, I get it. Guillermo didn't do it, and they changed a lot of things, but I still enjoyed it, and I liked it. Not only that, but they continued the themes and ideas that were set in motion from the first movie. Now, there's a whole other thing they could have done, especially in a world where Jaeger tech is all over the place. They only dusted us with that, and I felt that's what Pacific Rim: The Black do. And then again, I know I'm a broken record, but we introduced the idea of using the drift tech to screw with people's brains, that you could pick up abilities from other people by using the drift tech. That, there is a hybrid monster that became sentient from Uprising, and he's kind of like an anti-hero in the world, and you're like, my God, I want more of this. Like, let's not bother with that. We just got to wrap up, and then we're going to call it a day and go cash a check. It angers the blood, as Grandpa Simpson says. It angers up the blood. And of the three non-comic book Pacific Rim stories we have, the first movie, Uprising, and this is definitely the biggest letdown of all three. And it's disheartening because there's clearly a crap ton of themes to explore in this world. There's so many stories, and the fact that they set those up and did not pay it off, or they just could not figure out where to go with them, is the most disappointing thing about the entire series. That blew my mind. Again, I know people hate Uprising, but I still like, because it still gave us these things, and it still paid off the ideas. There's one or two minor things I can complain about because it was like clearly these were ignoring some of the rules from the first film, but past that, it's still fun. This stopped being fun. Like, the first half, when they were kind of showing you like this is a hard world. Like, we're the entire continent is locked down. You are in a harsh environment that is not going to treat you well. It's very Mad Max. It is the themes of Mad Max Fury Road, where Immortan Joe has this world, and you have to be hard to live it, and you kind of have to be a bastard to survive out there. I understand that. So when you introduce characters like Shane and The other people living out there, yes, they're going to be they're going to be assholes, and I appreciate that. That's a little bit of teeth, but then you just kind of go nowhere with it. Other than their character development is they're an a-hole. That is not that no, that is not acceptable. So yeah, color me quite disappointed. Shane of all, especially like that, he never earned that redemption. He never earned that face turn. Like when he died, like everyone just be like, "Oh, cool, good, this guy's dead, great." He weirdly did something noble because apparently he treats May as his daughter, but that's not quite apparent. Like, so you should feel bad that he sacrificed. It's like, no, you don't feel bad at all for this guy. You don't like he did one good thing, does not redeem the entire bit of him like murdering people left and right in the first half of the show.
Yeah,
and it just felt so out of it felt so out of left field too.
Yep, he did horrible things.
Yes, he did not earn his face turn. Nope, no. I deny this. I say no, and I get it. I saw people online kind of like, oh man, this was great. I'm like, nah, it's not really. It wasn't really. It's when you see. I know it's again, as you said earlier, entertainment is subjective. There are things that I think we all universally agree on that are great and good, and then everything else in between. And then there are some things that are just universally bad. 90% of stuff falls in that. It's subjective. Some people, it's like comedy, it's like horror films. Some people love them. Some people think that they're garbage. And that's where this kind of falls into. And I understand some people are like, yeah, it's great. I'm like, really? I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm getting older. Maybe because I'm being a little more cynical. Or that I watch so much that I can, I just see the breakdown of the script. But this was like mind-numbingly lazy. That's the best way I can describe it. Because the animation's pretty solid. The fight scenes are pretty solid when they do give them to us. And there are redeeming moments, as I say with quotations, throughout the second half, but they are few and far between. The rest is just, when are we going to get to the firework factory? Why aren't we at the firework factory? And we finally got to the firework factory, but there's no fireworks. That is how I describe this whole thing. So, color me disappointed.
Yeah, it was not what I was hoping. It was not what I was hoping.
I know. I tried to keep a positive outlook. I don't like, as I gotten older, I don't like openly crapping on things for the sake of crapping on it. I judge everything as it comes to me or what it's based on before what it is trying to, does it accomplish what it sets out to do? That's the big thing. And I've been pretty positive on a lot of things that you and a lot of other people who listen to the show go, really? Like the aforementioned Netflix Godzilla movies. I defend those to this day. I still think they are good. And I can hear Jessica, a sigh coming and her eyes rolling.
Woofkies.
Yes. But I defend. This, I cannot defend, unfortunately. It is just... It's just not good. It's not bad, but the fact that it's lazy disappoints me. That's the big thing. It's disappointing. I would say that.
Yeah, it's okay. We don't need a season 3 for this one.
No, I hope that Legendary continues to explore this world. They have something there. This is a brilliant idea. I would love the main story eventually to be finished in some form. We never get to see the aliens. We only get glimpses of them. I want that. I want to know that world a lot more. We never really get into that. But what this started out as a fun side story that just fumbled at the finish line. and I really do hope that Legendary continues. I'd be down for another completely unrelated to this particular story animated series, or another animated movie, or another movie in general. I would like at least somehow Legendary to keep this going, because this universe that has been forged between Guillermo and Travis Beacham is fun as hell. It's original, and it gives me the things that I know I'm never going to get from proper American movies that I love in anime, especially super robots and giant monsters and them fighting. So there's a fan base to this. There is love for this property, and I hope that Legendary still sees that, and they're like, this is a fumble. We can do more. We can get more out of this.
Yeah, I had a lot of high hopes. I was very excited, especially after seeing Boy and Apex. Apex was my
Mm-hmm.
favorite.
It was
And
my
sadly, no.
They did nothing. Apex was such an I get even I love it, just a comic, that the idea of that character. There was so much potential. There's a whole series in that character alone, and they just kind of squandered him. Now the beauty is at least at the very least I can order another drone, a kaiju drone from Amazon, and I could paint him up in the cool paints, because they're never going to give us a figure of that character, who is sadly one of the most interesting things out in this universe. But it's just disappointing. I don't know. I There's so many things they could have done with Apex. The fact that he just goes out like a chump is that is the dagger in the back. That is the whole dagger right there.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. I mean, he was only there really to drive a plot point, right? To give the boy back his memories. And then he dies. I mean, the way he dies, he's in a very cool position. It's very sad.
Yeah.
But it was not, no, like the boy and Apex, I felt kind of went out like Phasma
Mm-hmm.
in the newer Star Wars trilogy.
Oh yeah.
Dope chrome cape, played by an amazing actor. You seems like he would have a background. Definitely just read the novels and comics. However, had a second chance in another
Mm-hmm.
film, went out. I was
Well,
so disappointed,
I look.
just like how I felt here.
Yep. And a side note, I defend Last Jedi for the most part. For the most part, it is not a perfect film by any means. There's many things that they could have changed, especially in the second half. The biggest mistake is not turning Rey heel and not having her go to the dark side, because that would have been a much more interesting plot point. But the completely just fridging of Phasma. She shows up. Hey, oh, I fall into a fire pit. That's it. It's like, come on. Like, what the hell? Like, that's a whole podcast for a whole nother day of just those films were just like, screw you, JJ, screw you, Ryan. And I blame Kathleen Kennedy at the end of the day, because you have a trilogy in mind, but you didn't lay anything out. You were letting these guys make it up as they go along. What did you think was going to happen? But again, that's a podcast for another day, Jessica. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. So disappointed by Pacific Rim, the black. Yeah, kind of ends in the red, which is a damn shame. It's a damn shame. But at least the ideas out there. Some people seem to gather something out of it. If you did, bravo, because I didn't. But then again, I like those Godzilla Netflix movies, so I do hope everyone is reading Godzilla versus the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers right now,
In comic books,
because
yes, there was that, and some gorgeous covers.
we again, you want to talk about wonder and excitement and childlike glee. Jessica, I feel like I'm 10 years old again, sitting in my fourth grade classroom, just doodling Godzilla fighting the Dragon Zord with Tommy riding on top of it for the 450th time. But this comic is doing that on every conceivable level. It is just nothing but God bless Colin Bunn and God bless Freddie Williams, because they are just they're taking everything I had in my head as a 10-year-old and they're putting it on the page, and it is an old fashioned fun time comic book. It is not asking anything else. It's not trying to be gritty. They're just trying to have a ball, and I love every single solitary second. Every page, I soak it up like a sponge. You have the joy in my heart, Jessica. The joy that came out of my heart could fuel an entire town for 6 months just from that splash page of the Dragon Zord and Godzilla facing off with each other. I felt like the Grinch. My heart grew 3 times its normal size, and almost leapt out of my chest. It is what we are missing in comic books today. I think. I mean, like you just spent a whole swath of time reading a lot of books, a lot of comic books, and I don't know, it's the American comic book industry is going through a bit of it feels like it's trying to find its new voice right now. Like in a world where manga is just mopping the floor, like it's 2002 all over again, and manga is super popular once again. And comic books are trying to kind of figure out where do we stand with all this? Like there's great books out there. I recommend if you're reading books right now, pick up Livio Ramondelli's Kill Lock. That is a fantastic book. But it's also a bit of an adult book because there's harsh, coarse language in it, but it's a world about robots. And I'm reading Sean Gordon Murphy's Batman books, which I know Jessica is... she has her opinions on those as well because she is a Batman gal. But there's nothing that... There's very few things that feel like when we were kids and we were reading, even in the 90s, there was still that sense of we're just telling fun stories and we're having fun. Not everything was The Dark Knight Returns and not everything was Watchmen. Even Marvel was still these are just for people that want to have an escape. These are soaps that you read instead of watch. Like in your head, you're watching Spider-Man fight the Sinister Six with a weird cyborg arm, and all of a sudden there's a clone, and then the X-Men are dealing with the Savage Land and Mr. Sinister, and things are happy, things are kind of fun, things are nice. And I don't know why we've moved away from that, but it's so refreshing to pick up a book where it's just we're going back to that era. And I want to talk to Colin Bunn so bad because I'm like, dude, you are channeling serious 80s Marvel vibes with this book, where even late 70s, when the glory days of their licensed books like Shogun Warriors, because it's just we're telling a fun story and we're letting our imagination run wild. We need to bring those back, Jessica. We need to bring them back, and that needs to come back to us.
Yes, and actually, you've reminded me. I know last year Kaiju number 8 came out, and there is now the second volume, I believe, and you can prepare for other volumes. Kaiju number 8 is a lovely manga that has also been nominated for an Eisner this year.
It's a little.
I have enjoyed it. I'm sorry?
Okay. Ooh, it's Attack on Titan-ish, is it not?
It is. Okay. I do like it. I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't read it yet, but so far it is quite interesting.
That might be something come the end of the summer we might have to delve into for an episode or something. We might have to do something for the YouTube channel. We'll figure that out when we cross that road. But that is definitely something I kind of want to I want to dip our collective toes into. So, and then we will also be roaming the halls of San Diego for Comic-Con. It is back. It has been too long, and we are returning, much like MacArthur, to the Philippines. Hopefully, everyone will have a good time. If you see us there, come say hello. Jessica will be. You're part of the Eisner committee. We can talk about that, right?
Yes, I am an
Yes.
Eisner judge this year, so I will
Yes.
be there for sure.
It's for those who don't know, the Eisners is essentially the Academy Awards of comic books. So she holds in her hand the power to determine some of the best works this year. Wields it like Mjolnir, like Thor wields Mjolnir.
But yes, I was just a judge. I believe the final winner, as always, comes down to industry.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a very interesting journey and a good time. Lots of hard work, but very much worth
Yes,
the
which is,
experience.
for those, again, I think we explained last time. For those who were wondering why there was such a long break, that is part of the reason. You were absolutely swamped with work, so it was almost getting away for 20 minutes was almost impossible, because I think you can you say how many books you read in the last like 6 months?
It was several thousand, actually,
Okay,
per
well then,
book. Per book,
oh my god.
yes, by book.
So
If we were to count by book, not by series, because a series can
mm,
have 10 books, right?
yeah,
So per book, it was several thousand.
yes. So now you understand. So just to give you guys like an idea, like Jessica has been working her fingers to the bone, and doing the show was, it kind of needed to be put in the back burner while she had to focus on more important things, which are more important things. So, but she's back. We're happy we're doing this again, and we're happy you guys are with us. We got some good feedback from the last show. Thank you guys. We got some fun stuff lined up. Next episode, I can already tell you. As Jessica preps for Comic-Con, it's just going to be me solo. I have a project I've been wanting to do for an episode. We're going to be delving into the world of abandoned screenplays. And I got something fun I'm cooking up. So that way it gives Jessica some time to get some work done. So you'll be hearing my nasally, drony voice for the next episode. But I hope you guys tune in, because I think it'll be pretty fun. On that note, Jessica, where can the good people find us?
You can find us anywhere podcasts are found, from Apple iTunes to Spotify, basically everywhere. If you search us, we are quite easily found on Google. We also have our own website, thekaijukingdompodcast.com. We are also on the Facebook as the same name, along with Twitter. However, Instagram, I believe we had a truncated name, because there was
Yes.
only so many characters that we can put on there.
So
it's just the Kaiju Kingdom podcast.
Yep.
But yes,
right.
our Facebook is very active, thanks to Chris. And we're also on YouTube, as we
Yes.
put up new things where you can see our beautiful faces. Well, at least
Yes.
Chris and everyone else. I have a mask on because we were doing it still indoors during COVID times.
Yes, but there's more to come. So just stay tuned for that. And on that note, that will do it for this edition of the Kaiju Kingdom podcast. For myself and
Jessica,
thanks for listening, guys. And we'll see you next time.